Ah, I do love Dwight. Such a gentle, wonderful soul, such a talented fella. And it was such a thrill to converse with him about this part of his life that I didn't know was going to be flexed until the pandemic hit, which was him creating his own music after being a stalwart and an incredible bass player in Vancouver bands for years. Now we get to hear what's going on in Dwight's mind when it comes to his creative realm, and it is quirky, delightful, and well worth checking out. So, let's dive into a conversation with Dwight, understand where this came from, how it went, what the future is, and I would really appreciate a cheeky like, subscribe, or following of this account here on YouTube for What Was That Radio, but only if it brings you some joy and only if you flipping want to. You can find out more about Modern Rock Discovery, the Arts Academy, the podcasts, and the Wuzzers by going to whatwasthatradio.com if you so wish. Here's a conversation with Dwight.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Cool. How's it sounding? Because I just picked these up. So is it doable? Is it to your liking?
Yeah. What, you mean you bought those just for this chat?
Yeah, man.
I got to reimburse you then. What a waste of money.
Oh, I need headphones anyways. And it's only $16, so it's all good.
Okay, sweet. All right, it's that classic, whenever a Zoom conversation starts, Windows just audio ducks the shit out of it. But I think we should be all right.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sweet. Because I'm going around it another way. So to save explaining a bunch of technological jargon, it doesn't really matter right now.
Mm-hmm.
I won't bother. It works. We're sounding good. Everything's fine.
Okay, great.
So are you down in Victoria right now or what?
I'm just in Nanaimo, actually. We're heading to Victoria pretty much after this is done. And then I have the day off. But Yukon, they're still playing a show, but they have a band called, what are they called? Golden Youth opening up for them tonight. And then they're playing again at the Capitol Ballroom on Thursday, and I'm opening up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has it been so far?
Just like playing shows in general or just the island?
Yeah, the shows in general.
Yeah, the tour has been really cool. Like the Zolas tour. It's been interesting because like our first show was in Montreal and everyone was sitting down and wearing masks. Because I guess in Quebec, they had kind of tighter restrictions. So, and that was my very first solo show. And I was like really fucking nervous. And, I got up on stage and everyone's just staring at you with masks and they're like sitting down. So it felt like a funeral. And so the first show, it was a bit weird and shaky, but we went in Ontario, it was just like, full capacity. Everyone was standing. People were wearing masks, but like they were still drinking. So there was a lot of like, there was really no point of wearing a mask essentially. But so those shows just felt normal, and then last night was sitting down because BC is just sitting. And, but it's a good test for like performing on stage, because you kind of have to sludge through it because you're not getting a whole bunch of energy from everyone. So, you could tell people are like interested or captivated, but it's still like there is a certain wave you have to get through, as a performer, because you realize like so much you rely on people like moving and being close to you, right?
Yeah, it's massive. I think there's two things. Number one, could you possibly turn your phone onto the other side so we get a nice widescreen shot of you? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Look at that. And then I will.
Is that cool?
That's great. That's perfect.
Great.
And then I will quickly do that. Expand it a little bit for those watching on the old Twitch. Cut that off a little bit there. Because we're going to settle in now. I know that so how long did you tell Yukon Blonde until you would be done and they could all leave together?
What do you mean? Like,
how long have you given me to chat with you and catch up? I don't want to hold up the train,
Oh, you know what? My train's solo.
Okay.
And I've got nothing going on today. So we're in no rush.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah,
okay. Well, let's dive into it then, because I mean, that is what I was gonna. That's why I started with the shows. Is what's so intriguing, Dwight, is that you chose now to step forward from being such a wonderful, energetic soul with the Zolas as a bass player, and have always had great backing vocals, but I didn't picture anything else because I was just so used to seeing you in that one lane. And you clearly did not feel that you wanted to just walk down one highway. You want to explore the whole world. So where were you galvanized from to start making Dwyer music? And how did it then sort of become Mild Fancy Violence? And then we're going to go through this step by step by step, man. I'm so intrigued by it. I love that you've released it. I think it's quality. And we're going to cover an awful lot of scope in how this came to be.
Cool. Yeah, so kind of the beginning is that like I just come from a like really musical family. There's like 7 kids, 6 boys, and like pretty much all the boys in the family play guitar. And yeah, we like all just really got into music, and I've just been a songwriter ever since I was like 13. And I've just always been obsessed with music. Like I'm always thinking about it. And I kind of settled into being a bass player because my dad played bass and all my brothers played guitars. So they needed a bass player, like in the family band sort of thing. And so I just started playing bass and got really into that and started playing bass in bands, and was always writing songs and writing songs in the bands that I was playing in. But kind of, it's one of those things where it's just like a good bass player and a drummer. And I grew up with my best friend playing drums, and we kind of like learned how to play together. So that's like such a valuable commodity for a music scene. So I've always just ended up playing in bands as a bass player, you know, because and me and the drummer, like we kind of come as a package. So we've always played in bands together, and yeah, everyone is looking for a tight rhythm section. So I've just spent most of my musical career just playing bass, you know, for that reason. And I love like the role as a bass player because, you know, you can kind of like, you're fundamentally so important for the beat, and musically, you know, you can kind of riff and stand out when you want to. But at the end of the day, it's just like, there's not a lot of pressure on, you know, a rhythm section to really be front and center, you know, so you can kind of chill and have fun, go up and be crazy when you want to, but you always have the ability to go back, you know, tuck in behind the drums. But I've always wanted to have a project where I was fronting. And yeah, so when the pandemic hit, the Zolas, we were like 100% inactive. So I was like, kind of like, this is my chance I got into recording. So I made a couple demos, and it kind of just started from there, you know, I released a couple songs, and then I called the Zolas manager, and I was like, you know, what do you think about these? And he's like, yeah, let's do a record. And then I started plugging away at Mild Fantasy Violence.
That was easy then. Just a quick pitch and off we go. Here's a budget, get it done.
I know, it's funny. I'm super like, I was super lucky, you know, that, you know, and he liked it. In his exact words were, for the first songs I showed him, it's unusual, but catchy, but very unusual.
That's what I thought the first time I heard the songs you sent me. Was quirky was what I wrote down, which at the same time didn't surprise me with you, because that's why we've bonded over the years as well, is the use of that word quirky. But I mean, okay, so are you talking about the package deal? Is that a reference to Cody?
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Hiles, yeah. And then when you, and so one of 7 kids, Dwight.
Yeah.
So how...
It's a mess.
I think my grandmother was one of that many, if not more. I always get confused because I have Canadians. My mum's side of the family are all Canadian, though she was born and raised in England. And when I meet all these family over the last 15, 20 years, they're one of 8, one of 9, one of fucking 14. I'm like, what the hell? It's just like conveyor belt of babies in Canada.
Yeah.
So what was the first You're the oldest, or you're the middle, or where are you in those six guys all playing guitar growing up with the seven kids?
I'm the second youngest.
Okay, right. So why did you even bother picking up the guitar?
Um, well, like it's one of those things where it's like your older brother, is your idol, right?
Yeah.
So there's seven kids, and in that frame of seven, there's 10 years difference between the oldest and youngest, you know, which is crazy to think that my mom was pregnant like pretty much for a decade.
What a powerhouse.
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I just my older brother, he got into Oasis, and like we weren't all living together because we were in foster care, and we like lived in different foster homes. So when I would visit him, like I wouldn't see him that much. It'd be like, oh shit, Joey's coming over, like this is great. And he would bring us tapes of Oasis, like mixtapes of Oasis songs. And so it was really special because like it represented when I got to see him. And then, when he left, like what we had was these tapes. And so I just would listen to the songs in my bed and just got obsessed with Oasis. And then the Beatles, which is backwards. I got introduced to the Beatles from Oasis. But yeah, and then every band he got into, he would show us, and we would just get obsessed with it. Like Radiohead. Yeah, like pretty much Britpop was a huge, huge thing for us.
I tell you what, we'll have to clip that and send that to Noel and Liam because they'll fucking love that you discovered the Beatles after Oasis. Yeah. They know that there's a soundbite of that somewhere in this universe, and we just supplied it. Well, you did technically, so thank you.
Yeah, totally.
No, that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Because I remember for my sister is 40 this year. I'm not sure she's happy with me saying that out loud, but she's 4.5 years older than me. Wait,
right.
5 years older than me. And she is the reason why I fell in love with that Britpop era of Jamiroquai and the Oasis and Blur and et cetera, because she would come to my room, Jonathan, look at the new cassettes I got from Woolworths or HMV today. Let's dive into these. I mean, that speaks tenfold for New Zolas and you. I mean, one of my favorite songs was the first song that you put out there in the sense of Good Friend. That screams that you can hear that 90s influence to me. But I'm hesitant to dive into that too much right now, do I? Because I love this family dynamic, and what you're willing to share and the comfort in doing so is down to you. But
oh yeah, totally.
So all the family in foster care. And so that makes sense now why, okay, I love my brother. He's bringing me these great songs. I want to fucking learn it and play it to him. What other instances, as you grew in performance and as a guitar player, were you able to then start to coordinate getting together and jamming? And was there more than just a passing of cassettes between you all?
Yeah. So there was like the occasional, like me going over to his house and being like, he'd call and be like, oh, I found this really cool chord. And I'd be like, okay. And I would like have my bass and my little bass amp, and I would just like walk for like 20 minutes, to his house. And then he would be like, bring, it's amazing, dude. It's just like, just shit like that. And then once I went to high school, that's when, I started playing in bands with my friends and stuff. Cause music, just being a weird little kid in high school, still like the only thing like I would talk about would be like Radiohead this, Radiohead that, Oasis this, and so yeah, just kind of like from my brothers, all that obsession of music just stuck with me and hasn't left. Like I still think about music 24/7. It's a disease.
And have your brothers had the chance to come and see you in all these bands over the years?
A few of them have been really supportive. Unfortunately, like they're all kind of anti-vaxxers now, or a few of them are, so they can't really, come see me at the moment. But, I kind of went my own way, because like classic rebellion, like I really wanted to find myself, and I wanted to start getting inspired by music that just really felt like me. And like in high school, I started to like discover my own bands and be like, oh, have you heard of this? And they're like, they suck. And I'm like, well, I think they're awesome. So that was like a form of rebellion. And the really funny thing about that was it was Weezer. So out of all bands, Weezer was like my rebellion band, you know, like, which is really funny because they're like the dorkiest joke band ever. But I remember going up to them being like, dude, have you heard like Buddy Holly? Like this song's amazing. They're like, dude, Weezer sucks.
So fascinating, because to me, the Blue Album is one of my favorites of all time.
It's one of the best albums of all time.
The World Will Turn and Leave Us Here. I think I've slightly got that wrong, but that is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah. Where I was before you appeared, in your place, an empty space.
Exactly. Yeah.
So good.
This is Dwight karaoke, everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's essentially what my live show is karaoke. So,
but that's what I'm so intrigued as well. And we're going to jump around with this because I just like to let answers inspire the next question. There's nothing planned, but I love all these photos of you performing. Let's dive back into that. So you're in Montreal, everyone's sat down. There's that eerie disconnect. This is your first ever performance as a solo performer.
Yeah.
How did you galvanize yourself to do that? And how did you feel you had to change and tweak your performance during it to fit in with what was clearly like a different, just a whole new world of performing? Okay, you're over there, I'm here. Fuck, I got to try and reach you somehow.
Totally. Well, you know, to start that, it's like I was trying to figure out, like I wanted to go on tour with the Zolas and I needed to figure out how I was going to do it. And, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of financial support to bring a band with me, nor did I rehearse with a band. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just play acoustic guitar and sing my songs acoustically. And I'm like, no, I want to do something a little more energetic. So I got the tracks to the record, and then I got my really good friend Bronson to play guitar, you know, and the thing behind that is I wanted it to feel like a hip hop show, because a lot of the time hip hop artists, it's just them singing over tracks, you know, and usually it sounds good and it's about the energy. So I'm like, it'll be like that. I'll just be really energetic and I'll just sing and I'll just have tracks. And I remember before the Montreal show, you know, I'm like, yeah, I plan to do it, but how am I going to fucking do it? I've never done this before. Like even in rehearsals, you know, I was just singing. I wasn't performing. So when we got up on the stage to play the Montreal show, I could feel my voice kind of shaking and, you know, that kind of nervousness where everything was just like out of control a bit. And we got through the first song, and I think it was the second song, I spilled like 3 cups of water on the stage, and the whole stage was just like flooded with like that much water. And I was like, can I get like a towel up here? Like, and then like the bartender came rushing in, and which felt like an hour. There was like 2 minutes of like everyone trying to like dry the stage that I just destroyed. But I think I made a joke about it, and the show ended up being fine. But as that tour went on, I really started seeing it as a performance. Like I kind of like, especially Mild Fantasy Violence, that song in particular, because it's a bit of a story. And then I started like, as I was singing, I was putting myself in the story. And the second half, it gets really dark, and there's like kind of like a demonic voice, like a vocoder, like a vocal effect I put on. And I was really just getting into it and seeing the story, like, you know, and like trying to like connect with people. And now I'm like, you know, I want to get a band together, but I also I think I don't really want to play instruments all that much, because I'm having such a good time just like being weird and dancing and like falling over, and like, I don't know, it's really freeing and borderline embarrassing. Like you're edging embarrassment, you know, but it's just who cares? You know, like.
But that's the key to it though, Dwight, because you're just being you. You're completely immersed in that moment. You're not worried about anyone judging, because here's your product and here's how I'm going to deliver it. And that's what it is. I mean, that's the authenticity that people are attracted to. So you don't play any instruments at all then. You're just singing, and everything else is track and the friend helping.
Exactly.
That flips everything on its head. because you've spent
Yeah.
years just grooving around with this tight strap on the bass in the back, bobbing in between your bandmates.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, like when, especially as a bass player and not as a front person, you know, it's important, you know, to showcase how you're feeling, but like you're kind of locked in, you know, and your whole purpose is to be playing the bass. And I was really like kind of wondering, not really concerned, but like how it was going to feel when I got into it as just singing. And it's just been like really fun, you know. It's been really, I didn't think I would like it this much.
Was that where all these interesting photos and hand postures have come from? You developed this interesting
A
hand
lot
photo
of
game.
yeah, I do a lot of my hand. Yeah. It's like boy band almost.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Sort of K-pop meets 90s rock.
Totally. Yeah.
You know?
And a little bit of Gollum.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit
that is very, very,
a lot of
yes.
precious shit going on.
It makes for great photos because, I mean, you're just rolling out great shot after great shot after great shot right now with all these interesting poses. So,
well, that's half. If you look good, that's half the battle. You know, it's like, hey, man, your set looked great. How did it sound? It looked great.
But speaking of that, do you even want to build a band around you? If you've spent all these years being the linchpin, the foundation of a group, don't you just want to try exploring? What these tours are going to do for you is clearly give you a very growth by experience. Holy shit. Go. It's just go, grow. Do you not want to just keep throwing yourself into that unknown and just do it by yourself, keep it minimal, and therefore grow in turn as a musician and a performer yourself? Because at the same time, you know, if we look at the brass tacks of it, if you want to turn to 4 or 5 of your best friends, you could build an incredible band around you, but that comes with a cost too. So for me, the question is, you know, do you want to financially in this moment and as a musician period, throw more bodies around you? And at the same time, how would that affect your growth? You know, for me, I'd love to just see you keep doing this thing. If you want to just track it, just make it get it to the point where it's just you and the tracking, because I think audiences are now familiar with the fact that there's a lot more production to a show than necessarily just what they're seeing.
Totally. Yeah, like, yeah, no, it's a really good point. And when I did this, it was kind of like, it was just to, you know, it was just so I could financially go on tour. So it was just like, yeah, maybe I'll just do tracks. But now it does feel like it opens up the stage, and it makes it so you're not really worrying about kind of the band. Not that I would anyways, but you know that you have this consistent, reliable platform, which is your tracks. And I really do want to hear what my songs sound like, because this project is all about like different variations of things. Like I want to have versions of my songs live that don't sound anything like the record. Like you can tell it's the same song, but like have live variations. And I'm going to do a live performance video, and I'm going to get an actual band to play it. And I'm excited about it. But as far as touring and stuff, you know, you're absolutely right, because it's, you know, flying 5 people out, you know, on an airplane is an extreme cost, you know, or even touring or like feeding people or paying people out of shows. But I think what I'm going to try to do is just do a hybrid, you know. Some shows, you know, it'll just make sense to go out and do a track thing, and local shows or other shows, you know, will just have a band, you know, and just kind of dip my toes in that. Because a lot of my favorite artists, like Damon Albarn, is such a hero for me, and I just love what he can do with a band with live people, and I find that really inspiring, you know. But yeah, and I do love doing things by myself as well. Like I wrote all the songs and tracked them and demoed them all myself. And then in the studio, it was just me and James Younger from Yukon Blonde.
Yeah, I love that guy.
I love him so much. And, you know, we work really, really well together because we're a bit crazy. Neurodiverse is probably a nicer way to put
like
it.
that. I like that. Neurodiverse.
Yeah.
Someone write that down.
Yeah. Well, I have a tattoo that says neurodiversity.
Okay. Well, where did that come from? And then we'll go back to the James point. Why did you tattoo that?
I tattooed that because well, I've always had an inkling that I was on the spectrum, and my son, he was assessed and he's on the spectrum as well. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing. And I think a lot of people, there's a lot of awareness for it now, but I think a lot of people assume that it's like kind of like a disease, or like, you know, it means that like you're slower or something, when in reality, you know, people on the spectrum are some of the most interesting, smart, funny, oftentimes, people I've ever met.
Yeah.
You know,
The small town I grew up in, Malmesbury, our next door neighbors, Tony and Shona, if I remember correctly, going down the memory bank here. But I'll never forget their son, Adam, who was on the spectrum. And I think for me, growing up in the small town with them being the neighbors, it was just, it was what it was. He was one of my best friends. I would go over every day, play Thunderbirds. I remember having the fucking, like, when my parents got us like you know, you remember Thunderbirds?
I remember Thunderbirds.
Right?
Yeah.
Come on now, we're old. And
Yeah, we're old.
and so when there was like that kids, you know, get all the different bits. What is it, like their base? You could buy the base and then you try and collect each other one. And I'll never forget the day that we finally got all of them. I think it was Thunderbird 1, right? The main carrier, the green carrier. I went running around to his after school and he was like, yes, yes, yes. And just, he did the longest, like all the way across the room, super slow-mo coming into land. And we would get together and watch Formula One every weekend. And he would rattle off detail after detail. And I think back, actually, I'm realizing now, speaking to you, that I was so detail oriented as a kid because my father was in the police and he did secret things in the police. And so he always trained me like, I need you to be aware of 10 things in 5 seconds at all time. You need to know what's going on around you, multiply that over and over. And so when I was learning to drive with Dad, he'd be like, right, he'd tell me 10 things in 3 seconds. You know, a Ford Mondeo just went by, a registration plate, blah, 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 blah. There was a lady in a blue jacket and orange socks. I just, nuts.
Whoa.
And so as a kid, having Dad doing that whenever we'd drive anywhere, that when you're a kid is so fun. You know, when I'm like 5 or 6, like, yay, he's saying loads of words and it's so entertaining. And then at the same time, you get back and you go and watch some Formula One with Adam. And he's like, well, Damon just went round the track and Jacques Villeneuve just went round in 126.32 and they put this many liters of fuel in it. And, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, boom. And I'm realizing now that's testament to how much I'm just so intent on being so particular, but also having lots of holes, like a sieve in my brain where I lose some intel and have to try and push it back in again. Yeah. No, that's
really interesting that was kind of like like kind of pushed on you as a kid. That's kind of cool.
But not like not a force, like if you don't do this, then you're no son of mine. But like, you know, if you kind of want to be of the same ilk, then try and think real quick. So I think that put me in good stead for stand-up when I started doing that when I was like fucking 10 years old or whatever.
Well, and obviously, like, you know, the career you have now,
yeah,
like with radio and that personality in general, like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, verbal diarrhea. Thanks, everyone.
Verbal diarrhea, yeah.
So let's go back to Mr. Younger then. The first time I met him was when he'd recently joined the Zolas, the Yukon Blonders, and they came to the Zone, which is why I'm thinking Zone, Zolas,
well,
Yukon Blonde.
He was in the Zolas.
That's right. He did both.
Yeah, and when he left, that's when I joined.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So really, you should be fucking nemesis.
Yeah, so you're not entirely wrong.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
How long ago was that then that he was in the Zolas? 9 years?
Oh, 7 years maybe. I want to say 7, 8 years.
It was so seamless how he just switched groups that I thought he'd never changed. I guess that's what it is.
Well, it was literally like Yukon, like it was like Zolas to Yukon immediately. You know,
this is why. Yeah, he showed up with the Zolas for an interview, and I remember coming over to me and saying, "Oh, you're from England, are you? Oh, well, I'm from Manchester, and I'm a blues fan. Who are you into?" And I was like, "Not that fucking team, that's for sure." And then it was like Groundhog Day. 2 weeks later, he was back again, but this time with a whole different set of chums. And he was like, "Oh, it's Tottenham Hotspur, is it?" And I think Tottenham had just beaten City, and I was like, "Love you." Welcome back. Can I get you anything white or, you know? Anyway, but in terms of the Tottenham colours. But so you decided to record with him. Hang on, well, let's go back even further then. So was
Sure,
that,
yeah,
was
let's
that when
do
you
it.
first met him, when you sort of tagged out and went, peace, thanks, I got it from here?
Yeah, that's around the time when I met him. Yeah, that's kind of like the era. I may have like seen him at a show before, like just before then, but yeah, yeah, we like tagged. He tagged me in, and then yeah, that's around the time.
And how did you build a friendship to get to the point of making this album together?
Um, yeah, well, you know, him being in Yukon Blonde, we went on tour with them in 2018. But he's like, you know, James is really good friends with Zach and Cody, and how what was and he started getting into production, and he co-produced a lot, most of Come Back to Life, our record, which we started like 4 years ago. So I had worked with him in the studio a lot, you know, and I love his instincts, and we share like the same love for the same bands, and he's he's not into technicalities. He's just into being creative and having a creative idea and then figuring out how to do it, you know. And that's kind of how I function when I write songs as well. So he's a really creative mixer and just like a creative guy all around.
Do you have an
And
example of that when you were first sharing an idea, he's like, oh, we can build it? And then what did it turn into? What comes to mind?
well, we went to Zach's cabin to do a songwriting retreat, and James was there and he recorded it, and he got like the best fucking drum sounds. It was for Miles Away, and I think it's the same drum sounds we recorded at the cabin that are on the record. And we needed a shaker, and I think we just like put a bunch of weird random shit, maybe pills, in a
Okay,
in like a bottle.
that's opening
And
a
then
fucking corridor of intrigue. Yeah,
yeah,
just paracetamol. Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
just a bunch of drugs
yeah,
drugs
just
in
some herbs.
in
Yeah.
a tin can. But like, and those drum sounds are just like wild, you know, they're really kind of compressed. And I think he's really into Friedman, that producer, like the guy who does like the Flaming Lip stuff. And he's very like explosive and creative too, and has like incredible drum sounds. And I think James gets a lot of inspiration from that. But yeah, I think that's the example that comes to mind.
Well, let's pull that up quick then, because I know that with the wonderful people at the record label, I'm not going to get in trouble. So,
And Zach will love that you're playing the Zolas on a Dwight interview, you know?
yeah, I know he'll get a fucking kick out of it.
Yeah.
He will. Let's play a little sample of Miles Away. I'll skip in to about a minute. And this is the most Richard Ashcroft Zach has ever channeled in his life, just so we're clear.
Oh, yes.
And these drums are recorded in the cabin.
You know, you can't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure they're the same ones. And if they're not, we've really tried to reproduce the exact sound.
Inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the single most thing I've gone off about on most of these conversations with during the last few weeks is the authenticity of creation and the sharing of the artist's soul in the first place. And that's what I love about what the pandemic has done. There's a lot of negative we can look at, but it has forced us all, no matter what our craft, to find other ways to produce, to connect, to grow. And
100%.
that's what I adore about so many of these DIY efforts, you know, and that's why I love the fact that you've chosen now to step out and be like, well, I've always been here. I want to get this shit out here. And at the same time, then you've got a label that's so supportive. And I mean, the thing is with Light Organ Records is, well, they're already a part of the family. So it's not like you're a surprise to them. It's not like they don't know your integrity, your workflow, how you're going to go about it, your passion and all in between. So they know, okay, well, this is quite quirky and Dwight-y. Let's give it a try, you know, go and make the record. So, and just so Zach's clear, I did start this stream by playing good friend. So that he didn't get the first say today. You did.
Oh, good.
It's your day,
Yeah.
Dwight.
It's
Okay.
my day. Yeah.
This is all
Yeah.
about
Dwight
you.
Day. Dwight Day.
And so let's bring that back then. What is your favorite song of these 9? It's hard to pick a favorite, but in the few performances you've done so far, which is the one where you feel your body is gesticulating in a way of which brings you utmost pleasure?
Mild fantasy violence.
Okay.
Yeah. Like on the record, that's like it's kind of like between reverse engineering and mild fantasy violence, and those songs they're beside each other on the record, so I kind of see it as a moment on the record, and that's my favorite moment, those 2 songs. And Good Friend, it's not my favorite on the record, but I love what, like, it's definitely elevated me a bit because I'm getting a lot of attention. It's like the single, and so I have mass respect for that song.
Was it, and when you put all these together, I mean, you weren't putting together a plan to try and become the biggest artist on the planet. You were putting together a story.
Yeah, like originally, I just wanted to, and I wrote all these songs kind of within 6 months, so it wasn't like, I want to make a record, I have this song, it was just like a feeling. And a lot of the record is just about separation. And it's the feeling of, going through the pandemic, but also relating it back to my childhood, because, being separated and being taken away from things isn't something, is something I've gone through, and so I've kind of, thinking about, my past and stuff is something that I haven't buried, but I've kind of gotten over it as an adult, and I've started a family. But it was really special and cathartic to look inside myself and go back to that place, as a kid, and having the feelings of the pandemic reminded me a lot of, my childhood. So it kind of, came
How
from
have
there.
you approached parenting? From what you've shared so far,
Yeah.
This was an awful lot happened in 10 years for your family when you were a kid. And then it was an awful lot of next steps for you. Oh, if I want to see so-and-so, it's this way, it's that way. It's not all in one place. So how, looking back to that family life back then, how has that inspired you and your family now? How do you go about being Dwight, the family dad?
Well, I feel like, there's not a whole lot of pressure to be like the best parent, because, I think a lot of people, maybe they compare themselves to their parents and how they were raised, but I didn't really have a traditional upbringing. So it's like, just by showing up, I'm doing a better job,
Yeah.
But it makes me really proud to know that my kids kind of have a traditional like setting where there's a mom and, not necessarily mom or dad, but like just 2 parents, or just like a strong bond that the parents have with each other. And, my partner, Caitlin, she's incredible. She, I can't even express it, but, it makes me really happy to know that like my kids are getting everything they need and more, and they'll always have us, because that's the most important part,
Because for me, I've been living in this house for nearly a year next week. And this house is Jodie, my partner's house, and Harley, her 7-year-old son. And so Jodie and I, we met each other years ago at a music festival, and I actually ended up kicking her and Harley out of the Zone tent to interview Kim Churchill, an Australian performer. And she reminded me of that very, very early on when we connected and started to fall for each other a couple of years ago. And actually, the last time, no, that's not right. I've spoken to him the last time I spoke to Zach on the phone of the Zolas was when it was live from my bachelor pad, when I was basically testing out what became leaving my career and starting what was at radio. And we spoke about, that was when I just realized I was falling for this person. And he was like, "Oh, you finally found someone, and blah, 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 blah. Can I embarrass you, etc." And so to come round to my point, you know, the amount that I've grown, I can't put a figure on it. I know Jodie is listening and potentially watching right now whilst at work, but I have learned so much from Harley, 7 years old. And I'll focus on one thing, the dinner table. When I was raised in England, no elbows on the table, especially if you're at your grandparents' house. Otherwise, it's going to get smashed on the table. And that's not because they're horrible people. It's just there's an etiquette and there's a follow through. And if you don't follow through, you get the boom, boom. And, you know, you can't speak with your mouth full, or you can't get down until everyone's done, or you can't request dessert until everyone's done. And there's all these flipping systems in between. And I realized that it was triggering a lot of insecurity in me when I'd see Harley do it and being like, no, you can't do that. No, don't get down. And then feeling like, do I have to say don't get down? But it's not my role to say that. I'm not the father. I'm not anything. And there must have been moments for you with your kids and your family where it's harken back and remind you of a certain moment. How have you equipped yourself to stay positive and to feel that you're right in doing what you're doing? It's not that you're doing it better than anyone else or trying to be better than anyone else, but how do you ground yourself and work through those lessons?
Yeah, you just gotta, a lot of parenting is just like you're wigging it and you're going with your gut. And I think, you know, if like for me, most of the time I kind of know what's right, you know, and there's lots of times, you know, one of my boys, well, they both kind of have sensory issues. And sometimes you just have to look at things from their perspective. You know, it's like, is it worth getting into this battle right now? You know, and it's every day. And like you were saying, like I learned so much from my kids, you know, especially my 8-year-old right now. It just blows me away. Just like kind of the human condition and how, like, you know, because I don't remember being a kid, nor what I was thinking when I was 8. So it's really interesting just to like see him develop, you know, from being a little baby into an 8-year-old. And you learn a lot from kids, and you learn about a lot about just like human development from them. You know, it's incredible.
Why do you think it is that you don't recall anything when you're 8? Is that because you've chosen to close the door and you don't want to unlock what's in?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't really remember much of my childhood. And I remember talking to my partner about that. And I'm like, is that normal? And she's like, well, I think to a certain degree it's normal, but I can think of like, you know, a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I think, you know, it's a bit of that.
Well, I mean, that's not trying to push you into an awkward spot. I mean, for me, I know it's just years of smoking fucking weed. Yeah. I've got certain things that I'm like, oh, I remember that birthday. I remember this. And obviously all the harrowing events have burnt into my mind to an extent. But yeah, I sometimes sit down with Jodie and she's telling me all these stories about when I was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm like, how do you know these things?
Oh, there's no way I could ever. Yeah. I have like a fragment of being 4. And it's all to do with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like I remember the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cereal. I remember this like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Halloween costume. And I remember getting this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle like massive fucking teddy bear for Christmas. So, and that's interesting, like that, you know, that it's just connected to one thing, you know.
But do you recall which character the stuffy was?
Michelangelo. Always. He was my favorite.
There we go.
He was the fun one. He was the fun one.
Good old sassy Michelangelo.
I know, man.
So reverse engineering, I'm going to play a little sample here then. Since you were discussing it.
Sure.
Skip to about a minute in. And then a little sample of mild fancy violence. We'll skip in a minute too. That's a lie. 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Intense violence, blood, strong language. Explicit content arising. Inability to differentiate between the facts, intense daydream.
And actually, that's. I just wanted to bring it back to earlier in the song because you need that little setup.
Yeah, because it's like 3 songs in one.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I find most, that's a strange way of saying most, but I'll go with it, most interesting. It's almost like, that's born from Jodie doing a great Australian impression of me trying to catch up. You have to work your mouth to say certain words. I'm like, most. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's not go too far down that road. But that's the most intriguing thing about this record is your voice, is that it is consistently changing. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it just seems very playful. It's also dancing around. Is that you trying to find your voice as a solo, or is that you having that whimsical, I want this to be a really trippy journey to each song? Because it's not the same in every song. There's 9 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's something I just don't really think about too much, but every song has a feeling, and before the lyrics even come into play, it's about a feeling, and the lyrics come to try to match that feeling. But it's the same thing with how you approach it vocally, just try to, sing it so it's matching the feeling of the content of the song lyrically and the overall aesthetic of all the sounds. There's some moment, like I'm really inspired by Bjork. I just love her voice, and I feel like she's really like that too. She's a bit of a chameleon. And, a lot of artists are a bit like David Bowie. He often changes his voice, depending on the track or era. It just depends on the feeling and how I want to sing it, I guess.
Again, but it comes back to authenticity. You're not trying to do anything. It's just what happened.
Yeah, it's just what happens. Yeah.
It's so, I think, quirky. It is just the whole way through. It's so quirky.
Yeah.
But
that's great.
For me, I feel like I only started making great radio shows after 8 years of broadcasting, and I've only been broadcasting for technically 13, if you wanted to look at it commercially or officially. Mm-hmm. And that's what intrigues me so much about you, is that 50 to 100 shows down the road, I mean, that's a long way away. Mm-hmm. But where do you see the growth going? Are there certain things that you've pinpointed that you want to build into, create more comfort?
That's a really good question. And it's something I have been thinking about a lot. Most of the songs are really artsy. Well, the whole record is quite artsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All other than one that they pushed out to radio. Yeah.
I know, exactly. But, the weirder ones, like I was saying, Mild Fantasy Violence, like we just performed it last night, and it's so fun to do it because, like, when people are watching and listening to it, that, like, I love knowing that it's like 3 songs in one, and when that middle section comes in and then it's like that demonic fucking weird voice, no one's going to expect it. And I love moments like that just in life, or like just musically, and I can look at people when I'm doing the weird voice, people are just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and I just love that so much. So I want to keep making weirdo music, but at the same time, I do want to find my place on the radio, and I'm not gonna, start writing songs about things just focused. I'm always going to be weird, but I think, I can find a good happy medium, musically, and staying true to myself,
Well, I mean, to speak for What Was That, What Was That is ultimately a modern alt station. So nothing is older than 5 years. 80% of the playlist is all modern alternative, modern rock that's been released that I think will galvanize people within the last 12 months. And so when you first started releasing songs and sending me songs, I was like, oh, right. But these might go in the other parts of what was that, whether that's the gentle playlist or the gentle hour or the indie hour or this or that. And because I wanted to have that, when you tune into what was that, you know that it's go. But I have hours where, okay, if it's going to be more gentle or slow or more quirky all over the place, people know what they're coming into. And
Totally.
so until Good Friend appeared, I didn't have that Dwight song that would live all the way through it. And so what intrigues me about that in what you've just said as well, is Good Friend a song that came about early in the process or later in the process?
It was the last song I wrote for the record.
Right. And was it with that in mind of trying to get some support?
Yeah, 100%. So it was pretty much, I kind of did the record in 3 batches. So I did a couple songs of one batch with James and another batch with James. And then I approached the label and I was like, I want to do one more song, because then, if I had at least 9 songs, I could call it a record, in my mind, even though it just means like, I think it only needs to be 25 minutes long and you could call it a record. But I'm like, I can't have 8 songs and call it a record. But I was like, for this last song, I'm going to, I wrote this song, and the whole idea was to kind of make it. Have you ever heard of Clap Your Hands, Say Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So in my demo, it sounds more.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Nice one. Nice. Or. Yeah.
Oh dear.
It wasn't bad, man. Yeah. So it was kind of like, that kind of vibe. And I actually went with another producer, Ryan Worsley, who works with Dear Rouge. He works with a lot of Canadian bands that you hear on the radio, and I was like, well, if this is the song that I want to push on Canadian radio, let's work with that guy. So I spent a day with him in his studio. He's really nice. He was awesome to work with, and I kind of told I don't know if I sent him the record. I'm like, it's a really weird record, but I do want this song to not be so weird that it doesn't make the radio or like has the chance. But yeah, he did a great job, and it's it got a lot of features on radio, which is more than I thought it would, so it's been really great.
In all your years of being in music, how much of behind the curtain and radio do you know of, do you understand?
Not a whole lot, because even in the Zolas, I'm not really involved in that process. Like, I know that we have a radio team, but that was pretty much as far as it went, but I'm learning that stuff now, because now I got a radio team, which is really sweet. But the ins and outs of it, of how they actually pitch it to radio stations or what's going on in boardroom meetings, I have no idea how it works.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the time it's going to be, you've got publishers and you've got those connectors with broadcasting. There's certainly people that I've met throughout the last 10 years here that carry a bit more clout because they've got more ads, more instant ads, or more this or that. And so therefore, that when Dwight sends you a song, it's worth your time, right? It's the same in any business.
Mm-hmm. Like the Arkells, like they could literally like shit in a cup and then be like, oh, you instantly get ads.
Well, now you see, it's grown to that point. And that's exactly that's what I'll quickly give a rundown on from my experience is that, okay, so you send a song to radio. If you're an independent band, most of the time you don't know how that works. So a lot of the time for modern rock in radio, there's 2 ways. You can go through Yangaroo Music, and it's basically a way that bands are servicing. It's like an iTunes for radio. You would log in, set up your account, say I'm a modern rock station or a Hot AC or whatever you are, and then all those releases, once major labels go, okay, yeah, this is legit, that's The Zone, or that's, for example, for me, I'm the only online station in this country that has access to that portal, and that's thanks to people that have known me for 10 years and that have said, no, we want him to get this, which is amazing. That's not a brag.
that's awesome.
That's just fact that's important to note, in that is one way that people can go through. It used to be called DMDS. They still share the same two names. You probably know, do you know Newman of the Matchstick Skeletons?
No.
Formerly head of the Hood? Okay, well, that's just me presuming that everyone in Vancouver fucking knows each other. So I don't know everyone in England. Don't ask me about them, but there we go. I doesn't matter. The shoe fits for me. No, I threw that away and asked a question that might have brought a yes to.
I assume that like you and James knew each other by birth.
Exactly, right? Damn it, touche. There we go. So he actually surprised me several years ago. He surrounded himself diligently with people that he could say, right, how does this work in Canada? And so he found out that if you can access this portal of DMDS, then immediately stations are going to take you a little bit more serious, because there's only 3 or 4 or 5 songs that come through that a day, maybe 20 a week on the Thursday or, leading up to the release day. So that's how the Zone heard of The Head and the Herd, is because they had gone through there, and then after getting 2 or 3 plays, then put together a team to help service. And so then everyone got a second wave then of, okay, independent band breaks through, and then here comes the next push. And anyway, that's one way of going through. The other way is you just email music directors or program directors at stations everywhere and say, yo, what's up? And so if your song makes it into a music meeting or is listened to, then 2 things can happen. It either just gets, thank you for your time, we don't want it. You get no reply, you get nothing. Or you get a little bit of reply of, here's what I think about it, but I'm not going to feature it now. Or you get a feature, and I'm skipping a lot of info here, but the main thing that you can hope for is to get the feature, because you're then on the system. Your song is on their hard drive. And so while I don't particularly, I've never really been into, hey, everyone ring the station now and get my song played. Because certainly in 2021, when you've got fans all over the world, it's not necessarily bringing a boost to the station. How they can help you and you can help them. It's I don't know if that's making me seem like an asshole, but it's not bringing a very accurate reading of what do our community think about this song, because ultimately radio wants to support their community. They want to support
100%
their bands. I mean, it's I hope that comes across the right way, but
no, super informative.
But
like I should be taking notes.
But so yeah, there's so much to it. It's so simple though. That's what it boils down to, is connection. I mean, we could go right back to the fact that Light Organ gave you the chance to do this by proxy of being bass player, and Light Organ signed the Zolas, Oh,
100%. There's no way I would have gotten this deal if I wasn't, connected to the Zolas,
But when you start, sorry.
No, and I was going to say same thing. Like, I think a lot of people that have listened to my music has been, crossover, fans that know me in the Zolas, so there's been a bit of a crossover there. So it's yeah, you're right. It's all about who you know, or
a little bit. Yeah. A little bit, a little bit can help a lot of bit. And what my point was in summary is that a lot of the time in radio, and to click into your Arkells point, your wonderful sarcasm of support for Arkells, one of the powerhouses of modern alternative music here in Canada. A lot of the time, radio will go, where's the song after this? Because to go to your point of Arkells, well, they are the mecca of modern alt in Canada. They've built across the last 10 years to becoming an instant ad, which is a word that doesn't get thrown around very much in broadcasting, but that means you don't test it, you just play it. It goes straight into heavy rotation. This is what our station's all about, this kind of music and aesthetic, this kind of sound. And the thing is then, the ramifications for you as a Dwy is that there's only 3 other spots for heavy Canadian content. Now, there is a second group. Some stations will do 6 to 12 that are in their secondary heavy rotation. But then that will either be just Canadians or it'll be all international. Different stations do different things. At the Zone, they've got their 4 that are the biggest 4 songs, unless they've changed it in the last year and a half, that they're playing right now, no matter where they're from, international or Canadian. Then they've got their Big 10 that are Canadian, Big 10 or 12 that are international. And then those usually 20-ish, 22, 23 songs will play 3 to 5 times in 24 hours. And then very quickly become the staple of that station's current moment.
And the CanCon thing, it's like, that means it has to be 50% Canadian, right?
Each station will have their own license agreement with the government.
Okay.
The zone that I used to work for, you'd have to play 36% Canadian content between midnight and midnight. No, from 2 a.m. to, it was either 2 or 3 a.m. to midnight, I think. So overnight you had a few hours where you could do whatever you wanted to an extent.
Oh, okay.
And the rules didn't matter, but every station's got their own thing. Yeah. So so if I was, for me, that's what I love about What Was That, is I'm not concerned about trying to mold an artist to make a song that they haven't made yet to fit the next play. I'm looking at this exact song, and I don't care. You know, I've got 3,000 bands that play in What Was That are playlisted, that play 24/7, or whether I'm live or whatever. And if it's a great song, it's a great song. If it's a cool song, it's a cool song. You hope, therefore, that the creator keeps churning out hits. But that's the biggest thing that upsets me about my time in radio, is the amount of bands that feel they have to make a certain thing to fit one person. Now, okay, you made a song in Good Friend to try and get radio play, but you didn't go and speak to all those radio DJs and say, off of what you've heard of me so far, what will it take from me to get it? You made to you a song that was you, but more catered to a mass audience, and hopefully gets some featuring on radio. That's a big differential. And I've seen so many bands go and spend and go and create and go insane trying to make for 5-10 people that really can help a lot, but really shouldn't have any say in what you do as an artist.
Well, and I think, you know, I find that people that don't really understand like music, like chords and stuff like that, or they'll go to a show and they've never played a guitar, but they're just an audience member. I feel like those people, you know, they sniff out if something's not authentic the most, you know. And I feel like once you really start going down the rabbit hole of like what kind of progression should I have? How long should the song be? When should the hook come in? How long does the intro need to be? Like, and you really try to like process your song for the radio. There's no way you're sacrificing so much authenticity, you know. And I think people, even on the radio, people just want to hear, like, they want to hear you being vulnerable or like transparent, you know. And I feel like if you're just getting all your advice, or you're just catering towards these 10 people you're talking about, I don't think you're not going to make interesting music.
Yeah, and longevity-wise, it's not going to set you up to keep going, because you're going to get pissed off at some point because it's not being made from a place of actual authenticity. It's a fascinating conversation that always comes up when I converse with people, is around that word authenticity, because it's amazing how our world is still so confused by, here's what feels real to me, but here's what I'm being told is real to me. And you can apply that to anything and everything, not just music, because it can boil down to the loudest voice or the most confident voice, the biggest print, the most legible print. Oh yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah. Right. And we forget about the intricacies and the layers and the depth.
Yeah.
Big brush strokes with that statement. Big brush strokes with that one.
No, it's great. No, you're absolutely right, man.
I want to play a little bit of Freaking Out.
Good.
Skip to about here a sec. Why do I keep choosing the soundscapes of your fucking songs? Vocals coming in 5 seconds. Right. And with everything you've shared the last hour, that song now elevates for me hugely, because getting the context more about you, more about your family, more about your upbringing and everything in between, Freaking Out now holds a whole new meaning to me. What was the thought when writing that song?
for that song, the kind of idea what behind it was if the earth could somehow become human for a day, you know, it would just look around and see how we're treating it, but not be angry, because it would understand why we're doing it, because it would have all the it would understand like capitalism, and it would understand, you know, like just war and famine and just like the stuff we're going through, and it would start to empathize. So it's just like this confusing kind of picture of the earth just kind of like empathizing with us why we're destroying it, you know.
I'm freaking out, but I'm not angry at you, son. Just take a seat
Yeah.
for a second. What have you done?
Yeah.
You see, because my mind initially then went to when you were speaking about your childhood and then you being a family man now, and the differences in between, and then a pandemic as well. You know, that's the beauty of fucking music though, man. Is it just, I have all these emotions come to mind from just that 30-second sample that was on my mind as soon as you shared about how you go about parenting. And then you're telling me it's about the world freaking out.
Yeah. And I think it's like really cool. Like, you know, like I said before, being a huge Radiohead fan, I think one of the coolest things lyrically about Tom York's writing is that the words he uses are so emotional, but you can interpret it any way you want it. You know, you don't really know what every song off OK Computer is about, but you can sure fucking feel what it's about, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I like to be a bit vague, you know, for that reason, you know.
Leave the space in between. Let the listener grab it and galvanize their own thought.
Totally.
And so with Mild Fantasy Violence, you were saying that the next step is you want to record a live, get a band together. But then actually let's go way back to about 50 minutes ago when you were saying that initially you were going to just go out and play guitar on tour. How would that have fit with these songs and this energy? I'm so glad that you didn't, not to seem rude. It would have been a very different adventure for you.
And it's like something that I feel like is coming up, because I almost had to play an acoustic set for tomorrow's show at Victoria, but thank God my homie Andy, he was able to get the day off work and play guitar, so I could do it with track, because it would be weird if I didn't have enough like that guitar with the tracks. But I wrote kind of acoustic versions. I have an acoustic version of Mild Fantasy Violence, but it's completely different, you know. And I'm glad I'm not doing an acoustic version of the set either, though. If I have to, like if I'm kind of pinned against the wall, I'll try to find a way to do it. But yeah, I'm glad I'm not.
I've personally always had a hard time with that, in that to get an opening spot on a tour, it can be huge placement depending on tour and circumstance. But then I've seen friends, and I won't mention names because I don't want it to come off the wrong way, but I've seen friends that have made huge rock records and they get this opening spot. You can only get 15 minutes. They're like, well, there's no point bringing a band. So the frontman goes and he just makes all the songs acoustic. And it is not the same fucking show. It's not the same genre. It's not the same anything in between. It's a whole new experience. And so I don't like it. That's why I don't like it, because then the artist is being forced to change again due to systems around them, the very creative they made in the first place. So, okay, you're planning to do...
Unless, though, the only thing with that, though, John, unless, like, you're an artist that, like, you're based around, like, singer-songwriter vibes. Like, I feel like if, like, City in Color, like, he goes on tour.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And that, like, there are some exceptions. Or, like, if Dan Mangan were to do it, like, I think the same amount of people would buy tickets, because it's just, like, it's... And I think I guess a lot of it is like if they're lyrically like kind of storytelling, like Dan Mangan, it's like his fan base are probably mostly into him because of his storytelling, you know. But for me, it's just like it's very a musical aesthetic, and it would suck.
Yeah, no, Dan is a poet and a sweetheart, and I was getting angry, passionate about rock bands that would just throw away the whole grit and just sit down and cafe it up. Just a very different energy. And it's for me, then it's like, well, is it even worth going on that tour? Because you're then just the solo musician with a guitar that people spoke over until the big name came out, and that sucks. That sucks for their development as an individual, for the band, for the lot, and everything in between. Anyway.
And you're not really representing who you are on that record, you know.
Yeah, but again, that's just from a passionate. Everyone's going to choose what they do as individuals, always.
Yeah.
I just I'm not the biggest fan of cover songs. And what I just touched on with that. So there we go. It's not to say that I don't listen to cover songs. Let's not go down that rabbit hole right now.
Oh, sorry, man. I thought I was going to be playing an acoustic version of Creep on the show.
Yeah.
I have it all ready. Like...
No, not Creep. I said Creed.
Oh, right.
Creed. Big
right.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No, sorry, Scott. We're not going to have to pay you any royalties today. No, wonderful. I just, yeah. So, okay. That's my point. To come back to the question here, is this video is being made, you're going to put a band together, and then once these shows are out the way, is there anything that you said, right, I want to sit down and get this done?
Yeah, I've already I've definitely been doing that. I've been talking to another producer who I'm really excited about working with, and it's not really we're kind of still talking about it with the label, but yeah, I'm gonna go in the studio and record more music. You know, I have so much music in me. I've written like probably like 8 to 10 songs since the album that I'm really excited about, and I've demoed about half of them. Yeah, I've got so much music, and now that I've been playing live and I've been, you know, getting used to being like kind of an entertainer and in that kind of way.
Please leave the hotel.
Please leave. It's totally please leave the hotel. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. Hello? Yeah, I just need a few extra moments. I'm just getting out of the bathtub. That's great. Thank you so much. But sorry.
How far away is the bath from the phone?
Pretty far away.
Believable?
No.
Okay. All right.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
That was a very unbelievable thing.
You're getting in a studio with a producer. You obviously won't say the name just yet. You've got 8 new songs. You're excited. That's where you were at.
Yeah. And that's kind of, so there's a live performance video that I'm kind of thinking about. And I'm thinking about ways to, you know, incorporate more visual stuff, because I don't want it to just be like, here's the band. You know, I want it to be kind of creepy, and I want there to be something odd about it. And I just want to record new music, and I think I'm going to start releasing singles, you know, because in the world we live in, when you release a record, you only get a chance to release one single off that record to get on like editorial playlists. But if you kind of release one single at a time, you're getting a chance at getting on better playlists or playlists in general. So I think maybe for the next year or so, I'll just start releasing singles, you know?
Dance with the algorithm.
Dance with the algorithm.
Slow
man.
dance with the Spotify algorithm. Come on in.
Yeah.
Dim the lights.
Yeah, it's painful to say, but I kind of think it's fun. Like, you just hit the studio and think about one song, you know, instead of going and booking 2 weeks in a studio, making a whole record, you know, you can just make one song, and then, you know, a few months later, you'll feel like a different person. You've gone through different things, and you can like go to another studio, maybe work with someone else, make a song. So I feel like, as far as variety, I think it's going to be really cool and special to do it that way.
Yeah, and you do want to work with a bunch of different producers then?
Yeah, I definitely want to work with James again, because he's someone that's continually changing and learning how to do things. And I just want to be involved in that, you know, involved in his creativity, because it's really meaningful. And I think we make great music together. And Ryan Worsley as well. I want to work with him. But yeah, I think it's important just to keep learning from other people, you know?
Big time. Well, yeah. I'm cognizant of the fact that the hotel just rang you to say, get the fuck out of here. The last thing I want to know is is that your PlayStation baseball cap on the bed?
It is.
And what was the game you played to death as a kid?
This game, Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I had a feeling
This is
it might be.
It's a Final Fantasy VII shirt in the style of gorillas.
Yes.
Which are two of my favorite things. So, yeah.
There we
So
go.
it's that one. Yeah.
Because I almost fell for that earlier when I saw the hoodie. I thought, oh, there they are. And then I saw the PlayStation hat. And then it was only about 3 minutes ago that I twigged that's Final Fantasy. So I had to make sure I asked
Sick.
before we went. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. And thank you to who was sat in the room with you?
This is Andy Bishop. And is it cool if I show you? He's
Just sat
He's
on
playing-
the floor.
he came in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago, and yeah, he's
Right.
sitting on the floor. He looks cozy though. Yeah. I make everyone that plays with me to sit on the floor. Like, don't talk.
Pre-show, you're all sat on the floor. You, Andy, hold grapes. You, hold Gatorade. You,
Yeah.
hold
Yeah.
5 hour energy. Let's fucking go right now.
Yeah. Take out the brown M&Ms now.
Awesome. Well, Dwight, thanks so much for your time, man. It was great to catch up with you. And
Yeah, man.
I'll let you
Thank
go
you so
just so you
much.
don't get done by the hotel or anything. But
No, I really appreciate this conversation, and thanks for letting me just just get real. I thought it wasn't going to be this. It was really nice.
well, the way
Yeah.
I go about things is we talk until the guest shows me signs of just stop. Please leave me. Please leave me alone. I want to go
Right.
now. And
And
that's
you
what's-
learn that from your dad. You know, okay, he scratched his head, so that must mean this. Oh, now he's doing this.
Yeah.
That must mean that. Yeah.
But then that's the difficulty too with people that you meet in the first 5 minutes. If they have those sort of, I'm getting to know this person. They've got those little quirks. Then I have to just basically wait until definitely half an hour to be like, no, now they might want out. But no, I mean that's the biggest thing about what was that is taking the time to really understand the context of the creator, understand who they are, why they do it, what it means, and then what they're comfortable in sharing. And it's all about creating a safe space that they feel safe to do so, to share. So
Totally.
you know, I half of those things from all these years of knowing you on and off at shows and just the usual, you know, this was the most in-depth chat we've had.
Mhm.
And that's my cat behind me, by the way, figuring out where he's going to get the best sun, Theo. I don't know if your camera's cropped so much. For some reason, I've got a different camera for the broadcast out that people can
Oh.
see Theo just behind being like, meow, meow.
No, I
but
can't see Theo, man.
no, I don't think you can.
No.
No. Oh, well. You see him on Instagram.
Give him a high five for me, though.
I'll give him a poor 5. But
Top
that's
5.
the biggest thing about this is that I just wanted to be surrounded by as much new music as possible and not feel that I'm having to keep knocking on the door to get 1 or 2 airplay or any kind of support. And at the same time, I always say to people, I would like up to an hour of your time. And a lot of the time people go, what? Because for you, you're used to being in bands where A, you probably don't even get asked questions when you're at a radio station. B, if you do, you better have a 20-second answer. And if you talk for 2 or 3 minutes, if it's not live, it's going to be cut down to 10 seconds. So this is all about just, I don't care if there's awkward silence. It's 2 humans, in this case, dancing, conversing, figuring out, and that's it. It's as simple as that. So
No, and that's great. And I think it's what you're doing, you know, with the show is so important. And I think, we need more of this, but you know, if it's just you, we'll have to settle, and that's great. You know?
Well, there is a lot of really incredible people this planet over that are doing similar things. And that's what's so key, is that passion always finds a way to connect and to heighten others. I mean, I didn't want to be in a machine that felt like I wasn't growing and having as much fun as I hoped and thought radio and new radio could be. So I made a change. That change has created a lot of fucking growth the last year, in terms of abilities, in terms of mental health, in terms of everything in between. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. But at the same time, this is all about the slow build, because the biggest thing, you know, when you talk about Arkells is there are.
And I didn't mean to
no,
shit on them.
No,
That-
I
yeah.
didn't take it as that at all. And no one, Max is not coming for your jugular. You're fine. But that's one of the big things I've learned, is that now I'm not on the grid. Now I'm not in the usual system. that doesn't mean that everyone's going to open the door. So I appreciate you reaching out to set this up. I appreciate you sending your songs to me, and I will support you the best I can moving forward, as I have done the last several years. So no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. And this has been a really, really great chat. And and thanks so much for you. You were actually the first like radio station or like place that played my music when you played Freaking Out. And I was a little like irked at my intro I gave you. So I learned a lot from that. But but that's
that only got played once. See, and that helped
Good.
part of the growth.
Yeah. But no, and yeah, so you were this, this was the first place that played my music. So
that's cool.
It's special, man. It's really special.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Sweet. I had something soppy, but now it's gone.
Been a lot of sop.
Yeah, lots of sop. I'm all good with that. All good with the sop. Now, how long does it take your average person to dry their body when out the bath? When's the phone going to ring? No. Okay. Yeah. I know that as soon as I say goodbye to you that I remember what I wanted to say, so I'll message it if that's the case. But
okay.
Just keep being you. Please stay safe on the road, and please keep diving into new experience, because that's where you find the most growth. You know that. I didn't need to tell you that, but no, keep being
it's nice
quirky.
to hear. It's, sometimes the things you still need to be reminded, right?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, man. And yeah, I hope to one day see you at a show once, hopefully the shit settles down.
You will. And my answer to that, and the answer why you won't see me this week, is that I am in between a rock and a hard place where I would love to go back to a show. I would love to, but I just kind of want the world to keep figuring out what the new flow is. And I've bought tickets and then it gets cancelled and this, that, and the other. And I've just chosen to selfishly remove myself from any show going whatsoever, because it's just everything changes all the time. And I'm so focused on trying to do 20 jobs, that is what was that if I lose track, I'm constantly making lists and losing track of them. So I'm just keeping in my bubble in this home and building this company the best I can. And then hopefully in 6 months, when I've got the ability and the financial whatever to dive into that again, I'll be everything I can be. But right now I'm just being selfish and building my little baby. What was that, radio?
We'll keep building it, man. And you got free Dwight guest lists for life whenever you're ready to come back.
Appreciate it. All right. This is the worst thing this is the worst part of the show, is that I take 20 minutes to say goodbye because I don't want it to end. But you need to go and pack up and get down from the Nanaimo down to here and get settled in the hotel. And lots of love. Have a great rest of your day, man. Thank you so much.
Dude, thank you so much for everything. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Bye. Well, thank you very much for checking out A Conversation with Dwight. You can find more, much like this, long-term conversations, unraveling of minds, of consciousness and creation, by going to whatwasthatradio.com. That was unnecessarily flamboyant of a sentence choice and structure, I think. That sentence structure was odd, but we'll just drive through it. Whatever you're doing with the rest of the day, and as always, please look after yourself. And I hope there's some fun and smiles involved in the rest of it too, because we've got to cherish that positive. Until next time, cheerio.